Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion for Friday, September 29th, 2017. Let's take a look real quick at what things generally look like this time of year from a climatological perspective, the last 10 days of September, and here we are within 48 hours of September's end. But this is what we have in the last third of the month. Generally speaking, the entire Atlantic Basin, the subtropics too, all very busy over the past from 1851 to 2015. You do the math. I did not do it in my head yet. But that's a good time frame. And you say, well, Mark, how did they know what was happening way back in 1851 or 1903 for that example? Well, we obviously didn't have satellites, and we did not have the ability of recon until much later in the period. But we did have ships, and we did have people that lived in these islands down here, and they kept records, and so we know a little bit about this time frame. Yes, there were probably some that were missed out here, but overall, this is the climatological snapshot for what things look like from the 21st through the 30th of September. As we move through the first 10 days of October, which is rapidly approaching, we start to erode the development areas out here, and it shifts much more to the Western Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, and then a smattering of development over that time period in the subtropics. And you notice too that the Eastern Pacific over here is dwindling away. We don't have that much activity throughout that time period. The development chances become less and less frequent. All of that being said, this is what things look like today, or yesterday. This is updated every few days here. And this is the upper ocean heat content map. And you can clearly see a couple of, I think, very interesting things. First of all, look at this shadow right here left by Jose and Maria, and even to some extent down here from Irma. Irma sort of started things. But this is the cold wake, the alleyway left from where Jose and Maria cut through, removing the heat out of the ocean, transferring it directly into the atmosphere, and then dissipating all of that heat as these systems moved on and have headed out to sea. Absolutely remarkable how that works, in my opinion. I think that's an amazing thing that we can see through this technology to detect the upper ocean heat content, and where this used to be all filled in with warmer values or higher values, it is now gone. The other thing to notice is the very high ocean heat content values here of the Western and Central Caribbean, around Haiti here, around Jamaica, and the Cayman Islands. Very, very high upper ocean heat content values, and that just sets the stage for the potential of intense hurricanes developing. Now, these values do not necessarily mean that we will have intense hurricanes. We've had several years where the upper ocean heat content was very high in this region and nothing happened at all. You have to have your pre-existing disturbances, the atmosphere has to be primed, and something needs to develop in the first place to tap into this energy. And I think that's going to happen. Climatology suggests that it will. In other words, we are heading towards a more favorable time for this area anyway, and then the overall pattern is leading into that direction as well. Looking at the anomalies, I haven't looked at this in a while. I certainly use this a lot during the off season and during the first few months of each season to lead up to August, September, October. And you notice here the cool anomalies to cold in some areas here in the Eastern Pacific especially. You know, the ECMWF and other models, but the ECMWF seasonal led the way in showing that this would be warmer than normal for the hurricane season and beyond. And it failed miserably. It did. And there were other models that predicted that as well. And now you see it's cold in the equatorial Pacific, warm in the Atlantic Basin, especially through the Caribbean and the Gulf here. And again, you can see even on this map, the chiseling away of the anomalies. Now everything's colder than the average through the wake there of Maria and Jose. And like I said, even to some extent through here, Irma. But the Gulf still warmer than normal, the Caribbean warmer than normal, and we are setting up for probably quite a busy October. And with these warm anomalies up here in the subtropics, it won't surprise me if we see a very busy November relative to average as well. It's just going to keep on going. Why would things stop now, especially with the onset of this La Nina look in the eastern Pacific, which tends to foster more Atlantic development, especially in the Caribbean Sea, as we get into October. So here's what things look like this afternoon. We do have invest area 99L, and then another disturbance here near the eastern Caribbean, and just more rainfall and yucky weather for that area. One of the benefits, though, of rain, as long as there's not too much of it, is maybe you can collect that rainwater, especially in Puerto Rico, and possibly use it for drinking water. But you have to be careful what you wish for, right? If you have too much of it, it's obviously very problematic. But there's a tropical wave in here interacting with this upper level low, and that might bring some additional rainfall towards Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands and the eastern islands of the Caribbean here. Another disturbance firing up convection in the Northwest Caribbean, and then 99L, somewhere in this vicinity, not very well organized, and I'm going to show you the GFS here in a moment. I don't see anything that makes me alarmed at the moment, not in the short term. In the longer term, I'm a little concerned that something's going to try to develop in this region and become a hurricane, and we just have to see where it goes from there. So let's look at the GFS from this morning's run, make sure we're at the first frame, put this into motion, and this will loop a couple of times. So 99L comes up here, it develops into this, not very impressive in the 850 millibar vorticity signature, and you see the deep easterly flow that comes across through here too, and all these little green areas of blobs coming through. Very strong, anomalously strong high pressure is going to build in over eastern North America, and that will create very high pressure up here. A beautiful fall weekend coming up, temperatures above normal in a lot of places, but seasonable in others. Just a wonderful weekend, but you're going to have a strong easterly flow here, not only at the 5,000 foot level of the atmosphere as you see in this chart, but at the surface as well. So any disturbance that does try to form, you're going to have this pressure gradient where the pressure is lower here, even by a few millibars, than it is up here, and it sort of squeezes the wind in there. It's called a pressure gradient. And that's going to create an onshore flow that'll have a little bit of coastal flooding issues here for northern Florida. But again, nothing to really get too anxious about. Any rainfall down through here, though, and all this green and yellow indicates energy and vorticity. And so, yes, there could be some periods of heavy rain in Florida. Not what you need as you're trying to recover from Irma. But as you can see, this is going out to 7 days, and just until the end there, at the end of the frame, and I'll take a look at that singularly in just a moment, that one frame, nothing is jumping out as being too concerning. Some of these disturbances right across towards the Gulf Coast. So maybe New Orleans, maybe Baton Rouge, maybe down towards Lake Charles. You just never know where one of these sets up. Possible that one of them could be a little stronger than the model is indicating. Yeah, never say never. But at least for now, the GFS, and that's what we're looking at here, not indicating anything too alarming. Now at day 7, and that's pretty far out in time to be considered reliable for sure, we do start to see this large area of lowering of pressures down here and general convergence in the atmosphere. Pretty intense hurricane is indicating off the coast of Mexico. We'll see if that comes to pass or not. But the general idea is that between now and the first couple of weeks of October, this very large area of what we call this monsoon gyre, just a huge area of lowering of the pressures and spin in the atmosphere, very large and very disorganized, will try to maybe break off one particular storm that consolidates everything. And that's the part that's impossible to time or figure out this far out. So just be aware, and like I said, climatologically, this region is favored as we get into October. And so there's nothing new about that. What happens with this setup, we'll just have to wait and see. But at least for now, as I said, nothing too alarming. So on Sunday, I'm going to be heading down to Florida to collect the equipment that I set out for Irma. I will be tweeting about that Probably uploading some video as I do so, video diary type of thing, to Twitter. And you can follow that, of course, in the app. If you happen to have our app, Hurricane Impact, for iOS, iPhone, or an Android device, be sure to check that Twitter tab, because anything that I post to my Twitter, which is @HurricaneTrack, automatically goes into the app. And so it's just a friendly reminder that everything is aggregated in the app. So you don't have to go to Twitter separately or the HurricaneTrack.com homepage separately. It's all packaged in the app, and I will be posting some video snippets along the way. Those, hey, I'm Mark Sudduth, and I'm at the airport, and I just got the rental car, and I'm real excited about going down and picking up the equipment, and I'll have more for you later, that kind of thing. And you kind of follow along, and we will learn together, if you will, whether or not the little computer, it's called a Raspberry Pi, recorded everything after the connection went down in the keys and we lost the transmission. The little computer kept recording. It should have. You hope, right? And we should, I underline should, have some extraordinary wind data and pressure data only maybe 20 miles from where the eye went in at down between Key West and Marathon. All right? So I'm excited because as a scientist and a physical geographer, and that's what I am. I'm not a meteorologist by trade, or by degree. I study the weather, and this part, the data, really, really excites me. And I want to kind of show you that as it unfolds. Even if it's a disaster, and I'm like, it cut off, and we lost. We got everything up until that moment. I'm prepared for that. You have to, failure is an option, because sometimes nature's going to beat you, but I think we got it right this time. And I can't wait to show you. All right, so that'll be happening Sunday, and I'll fly back home Tuesday. Okie dokes. I will have updates throughout the weekend, though, to keep you apprised on what's happening down in the tropics, and we'll go from there. Have a great rest of your Friday afternoon. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. I'll have more for you throughout the weekend.